prefer the voice that answers. We're just going to be super call and answer response. So this morning, Bob Anderson is with us. Bob Anderson works for Paul Carlson Partnership. And so Paul Carlson Partnership is one of the service organizations, part of the covenant, that we financially support. And so he is here to speak to us, to give us an update on what they are doing, and to encourage us and spur us on to love God more. So, tall order, Bob.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. I am leaving the first class seats up here so I can come back and be a little closer to all of you. My name is Bob Anderson. I'm a retired Covenant pastor. I grew up at First Covenant Church in Jamestown, New York, if any of you know that part of the country. Served Covenant churches around the country and landed in California, where we decided to stay for some strange reason. But it's good to be with you this morning. I am called the Partner Engagement Representative. And really, the key part of my job is to raise awareness, to raise resources, of course, but also to say thank you. And that's a key part of why I'm here today, to say thank you to this congregation for your generosity, not just once, but over many, many years. And it's really important to be able to express that to you on behalf of Paul Carlson Partnership, but also on behalf of this conference, the Central Conference. I served here as well, a couple of churches, because you support those ministries, the ministries of the Evangelical Covenant Church, and you really make a difference. You are a vital and necessary part of what the Covenant Church is doing around the world. So I want to say thank you on behalf of all of the Covenant Church. There's not necessarily all of you would know who Paul Carlson was, but he was part of a Covenant church in Southern California. In fact, he helped found that church back in the late 50s, early 60s. And he was called to Congo as a physician in 1962. And he went there and had served for a couple of years when revolution and war broke out, quite severe violence. And so all of our missionaries were evacuated, Paul and his family as well. But he returned. He returned to the little hospital where he was serving because of patients that still needed his care. He was that kind of person. Eventually, he was captured by those rebels, and he was held for a number of months. Now, last year, I was able to interview the last surviving member of the group that was part of his cell. There were 11 men held there, and he expressed how daily they were tortured, physically, emotionally, every way that you can imagine. And it was Paul that really helped to hold that group together. During a rescue operation, Paul, along with many others, were killed. And so the medical work that the Covenant Church does in Congo has continued in his name and in his honor. And there's a couple of things that really surprise people often, even though they know a bit about the ministry. The first is that the ministry is not supported by the coordinated budget of the Covenant Church. We need to raise all of the money outside ourselves, close to $1.5 million a year, to do an amazing amount of work. Truth is, 2 times, 3 times that amount, we would still be barely scratching the surface of what needs to be done. But we keep working at it, and there's a lot of good things that are happening. The second thing that surprises people is the scope of the ministry. A lot of churches around the Covenant and around our country support maybe a hospital or an orphanage or a clinic somewhere in Africa. But Paul Carlson Partnership is the sole provider of health care for 5 million people. If it wasn't for the ministry of 5 hospitals and over 120 clinics in the area in northwest Congo, there would be no health care at all. It simply wouldn't happen. So that is an extensive amount of work that goes into and an extensive amount of money and resources that are required to keep that going. And you're part of that. You're part of saving and changing lives every day. I asked one of the physicians, how many lives are saved in this region in a year? Is it hundreds? He said, no, it is thousands of lives that are literally saved through this ministry. The medical work is a key part of what we do. We do not have resident Western doctors there anymore. We run 2 nursing schools, And so the nurses are trained there. We have about 25 to 30 doctors that mostly have been trained in Congo as well. And they're highly committed people because life is tough where they live. They face a lot of disease, they face difficult climate situations, and just looking at the situation and going, we don't have enough resources to do what we need to do. But we have a number of doctors from our country, doctors and nurses, who sometimes go over a couple times a year. And what they do, instead of trying to treat as many people as possible, they train master trainers who are then able to go out into the other areas of the country and begin teaching these things. And they save lives. Congo is one of the most dangerous places on earth to be pregnant. Interesting thing to say on a Mother's Day, right? But the truth is, there's a very high mortality rate for infants and for mothers. And in the last 4 years, because of the training that has gone on, the infant mortality rate has come down 50%, and the maternal mortality rate has come down 78%. Those are pretty big numbers. And so what is going on is very effective, and we're pleased about that. But you know, Paul Carlson, just like Jesus, looked at people and saw more than just their physical need, more than just their spiritual need. He saw the whole person. And so we also try to minister to the whole person. We call it holistic gospel ministry. And so we're also doing infrastructure. We're also doing economic development. You may have heard of the Karawa Coffee Project. But years ago in the Karawa area, where we have one of our hospitals, coffee was a cash crop. But during years of war and disease, that went away. Through a training program that we were able to initiate with a partner in Africa, we have over 2,200 families that are now farming their own crops. 4 years ago, we put a little over 1 million coffee seeds in the ground. 300 metric tons just came out in the last couple of months. In 2 years, that'll be 1,000 metric tons. And that increases the livelihood of these people immeasurably. It makes a real difference in their lives. And when their economic ability raises, they can send their kids to school, they can pay for medicines, and so on and so forth. It benefits everybody. But one of the other things in Congo is that you can't get from here to there. It's one of the famous sayings in Maine, if you've ever been up there, but it's really true in Congo. There are no paved roads outside of the capital city of Kinshasa. The rest of the country, which is about half the size of the United States, has dirt roads that mainly look like washed out riverbeds. And the bridges that go over the many rivers have been destroyed over the years. They've simply worn out, and they've not been replaced by the government. So we build bridges. That also saves lives because a lot of people drowned as they go over these makeshift bridges of twigs and sticks and logs, and lives are lost. Cargo is lost. And so we build bridges that will last for a long time. We do that by training people, the Congolese, to build those bridges, to maintain those bridges, and their livelihood is sustained in that manner. A lot of times I'm able to show some visuals. I know we don't have that ability here, but I'd like for you to picture what would it be like for a denomination to be the sole provider of health care for 5 million people? What would it be like for a denomination to be the driver of the economic engine for that same population? And also to provide infrastructure. Can you imagine what it would be like if the local interstate, what's nearby, 74, I think, if that fell apart and the covenant churches in the region said, you know, we're going to go out, we're going to fix that for the benefit of everybody. That's what happens in Congo. And here's the thing. People want to know, well, what results from that in the church? 2 million people go to the covenant churches in that area. That's 40% of the population is in the covenant churches. There's Catholic churches, there's independent churches in that area as well. But people want to know, why are you doing this? Who is doing this? You find out that the impetus is the love of Jesus Christ and the love of people. That has continued to be the key driving force. And it really makes a difference in people's lives. Paul Carlson, when he was in jail, when he was in prison, he wrote a letter. One of the last letters he wrote to his wife simply said this. And the whole world was praying for him. Some of you may remember this. This was pretty big news. He was on the cover of Time and Newsweek magazines. But he wrote this to his wife and said, "Pray not for my deliverance, pray rather for my testimony." And that testimony has borne fruit in unimaginable ways that makes a difference every day in people's lives. People that God loves, people that we love. I just came from 2 days of our board meeting, and the new president of the Congo, President Boka, has been with us these past couple of days. And he's an amazing man with a deep love for Christ and a deep love for his people. And he, like the people in Congo, always say, "Please tell people at home, thank you. Let them know we feel and we sense their prayers. They mean the world to us." And so I want to say thank you, not just from Paul Carlson Partnership, but from the millions of people in Congo who depend on congregations such as yourself, people such as yourself. I'm not here to ask for more. I'm just saying that we appreciate what you have done. It's really important that that continues, and it means so much. Please pray for the people of Congo. Please continue to give as you are able. Stay aware of what's going in that part of the world. It's not often in our news because we don't have an economic interest over there. But these are people just like us. And they love their spouses, they love their children, they love God, and they're part of our family.